Hi class, so for this week, the American Revolution, I decided to discuss Yorktown, more specifically, the Moore House, which was in Yorktown. So before we delve into that, let's kind of talk about the strength of the colonies. Um, Obviously, they had a strong leader, they were familiar with the land, they had guerrilla warfare tactics, but most importantly, they had a French alliance. Having friends during this time was of utmost importance for this starting country, so they could fight a larger colonial power. A key player was Benjamin Franklin. He had one of the most important tasks of the Revolution because he was sent to France in 1777 in order to gain a treaty of alliance against the British. Now, we all know the French and the British hated each other for many, many, many years. So it's not like they really had to persuade them. And it also helped that Franklin was very influential and beloved in France, and the Battle of Saratoga inspired France to sign the Treaty of Alliance. So in 1778, France signed the treaty, and we see that in 1781, the French Navy arrives in support of the early colonial Americans. So we see that they arrive and they put a lot of pressure on the British in September of 1781. And it's not but 1 month later, in October 1781, that Lord Cornwallis surrenders to the Continental Army in the Moore House. And then America wins the war. So my question is, why have I never heard of the Moore House until this assignment? Why isn't this more popular? I mean, that's where they literally signed the papers of surrender. Well, let's look at it. So this is actually an image of the Moore House. If you go on the National Parks Service.gov, you can type in the Moore House, and it's part of the National Historical Park in Virginia. So Yorktown Battlefield is located in that park, and the Moore House is taken care of by the National Park Service. So the National Park Service maintains this and keeps it preserved for the historical community. So this is how it's lasted for so long and is in such great shape. After much reading and looking on their specific website, it says Cornwallis selected the Moore House for the negotiations. Why Cornwallis selected the Moore House for the negotiations was not explained. However, there are several possibilities. The Moore House was well outside the line of ceasefire and therefore not damaged. It was a neutral location hiding the British situation in town, and possibly selected in the hope of securing better surrender terms. And finally, it was a convenient location for both sides to reach, as it was situated along the York River. So in other words, long story short, it was a neutral spot where both parties felt comfortable meeting. Now, the British, they, in this meeting, discussed, like, can we march out when playing the enemy's colors, which is like, or the enemy's song or whatever, which is what they would normally do. And Washington said, no, you're kind of just going to hang your head in defeat and walk out. And so it was interesting learning about the Moore House. Didn't know it existed. And it's an important part of our historical narrative here in America that, I feel sometimes this gets overlooked. So my sources, I looked at Richard Hell's New Light on the Naval Side of Yorktown. He just explains the whole situation of, the French coming over and putting pressure on the British. Then I looked at Catherine Lewis's and Thomas Schlethereth's Yorktown Victory Center, and it just discussed the surroundings around the Moore House and things like that. And then I looked at Solomon Letnick's, he edited it, so I don't know why I did both. Sorry. Let me take that out real fast. Solomon Letnick's The Defeat at Yorktown, A View from the British Press. And basically, this was really interesting because Letnick, the whole thing is written from the British perspective, and it's saying, like, how we were defeated and, what they should have done differently. It's just a really interesting article. So with that being said, again, I just wanted to discuss Yorktown and the Moore, because I feel like one knows what the Morehouse is. So I hope this enlightened a few of you, and I hope we